Nice to meet all of you. My name is Sarah Thiam, and I'm a DevRel Program Manager at Microsoft. I'm actually based in Singapore, so if you heard a really big whoop during Alicia's talk yesterday, that was definitely me. Woo! Singapore! What I want to talk about today, and I think Christy did a really great introduction of how I came from marketing. It's been a journey from marketing jumping into DevRel. It is really, really different, and coming from a world of lead tracking, one of the things that I realized in DevRel is that it's important, and I see the value of it, as Mary and Steve talked about yesterday during day one. But at the same time, it's done in a very different manner, and there are a lot of sensitivities to it that I went through a learning journey to learn, and I want to share with all of you as well, so that you can build on top of that. So today, the talk is about how to report on community relationships without being creepy about it. And if you can see, it's a little bit of an IKEA theme over here, because I'm going to give you some do-it-yourself tools on how you can build your own program for your DevRel team, because every team has different priorities and different needs as well. So one quick question, and show of hands in the room. How many of you yesterday during the whole conference have tweeted a really quotable quote on a screen and said like, oh, awesome quote? Show of hands? Great, so that's what I prepared for. But what I wanted to say was DevRel reporting can be creepy. This sentence will morph over time through this presentation, so don't take it as a hard fact and don't shy away from it. One of the reasons why it can be creepy, and I think we talked about this a lot yesterday, is around the business value that as DevRel professionals, we are paid to do a job. And at the end of the day, those stakeholders, in order to continue that investment, will continue to ask us, what is it exactly that you're doing? Can you please help us understand what is the business impact you're bringing back to our business for us to continue to invest in your travel, your budget, your swag, and your stickers? So I think one of the things that happened for us in DevRel reporting is that there was a lot of hesitation for it, realistically in my team when I faced it as well. And I think there were questions around like, how exactly are we going to format this, and how do we avoid commoditizing community connections? So as much as possible as a program manager, one of the things that we talked about was how do we humanize a process that can be effective for our advocates out there. When I say advocates, I mean the people in my team that are actually focusing on the technology and going out into the field and connecting with the community. So I want to make a point that DevRel reporting can be creepy, but more importantly, if you manage it the right way, DevRel reporting just needs to be sensitive, and it can actually be done in a good way. So I'm going to talk a little bit around my role itself. Okay. Another really important slide, and I really like this slide a lot. And I'm going to share a little bit around what my role is, because you might be thinking, what is this additional title to DevRel Programs Manager, and what is this Program Manager piece in DevRel? So what we do focus on, besides doing a really great job of events and printing awesome stickers, is also to think about the scale and adoption of our advocates' content and the technology, and enabling them to have more streamlined and optimized processes to take product feedback and improve the technology. So that's where your program managers come in. We are the people behind the scenes. You don't really see us. We actually do a lot of connecting the dots. And so one of the things that are top of mind for us is how do we come up with that kind of process to report back our team's value while they are out there doing all the great work that they do, back to other stakeholders within our business who might not understand what DevRel is about. And also, I think I wanted to share that when I came to DevRel, you know from Christy's introduction that I'm new to DevRel. So I'm going to share a bit about the perspective that I had when I came into creating this process. So when I came into the team, it was probably about month 1 or 2. And they said, okay, so you are from marketing, so you must know storytelling really well. So we're going to task you with this task on creating a process that works for our whole team of really, really, really experienced people in DevRel on how we can capture that community connection. So, to be fair, there's a lot of research that I am doing right now on the back end. It's about month 10 for me now. So I'm doing a lot more research, and next time around, I hope to be able to show some really good references, probably read Mary's book or something like that. But also, where I'm coming from in this talk is really a process that came from the ground up. It was something started from scratch. It was really like, think of it like a guerrilla process making technique, where you go out into the field and just ask people, what is it that is important to you? What is it that you're comfortable or not comfortable with? And how do we create a system for you that works and that you want to use and that adds value to you and is not just busy work? So I'm going to share your takeaways for today. So what you're going to be able to take home. Yeah, do you like the IKEA format? I really tried my best here. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to get to take home is a thought process for building your own DevRel reporting program. Again, this can be very different in every organization. And the second thing that you're going to get to take home is my learnings. So it's a simple process, but also I'll share the realities of what I went through so that you can try to look out for them. You might still stumble on them, but at least you'll have a heads up. And lastly, what other DevRel professionals think. So, surprise, surprise, we are all DevRel professionals. So one thing that I'm going to keep open is that if you head to my Twitter page, the top pinned tweet is actually an open discussion. It's a live poll on slide.do that you can key in your considerations of what you think a reporting program is going to be about. Because as we can tell from these 2 days, it's actually a really hot topic in DevRel right now. So I'd like to hear an aggregated opinion that we can all share with each other here on what we think is important and what needs to be included. Okay, so sharing the first part of my process, super groundbreaking first step, listen. I think oftentimes, even though I'm new to the team, listening is something that is easily forgotten. When push comes to shove and everything is happening really, really quickly, it's hard to remember to listen. It's hard to remember when you are being tasked with a certain thing and expected to deliver, it's hard to remember to listen to your teammates around as well. Because again, we function as a team, we don't function as an individual. So listening is going to be really important. When we first brought up the topic of reporting, there was a little bit of hesitation, there was also a little bit of confusion, and there was a little bit of just not knowing what it's about. So people were not super comfortable about being open to learning this process. So the first thing that we did is to give them to empower them with the opportunity to build a program, to have a program that was built by them. So we reached out with a lot of feedback questions and asked them like, exactly what is it that you're not comfortable about? What do you think that reporting needs to entail? And what do you want to be able to put down into a form so that we can recall what you're doing? So 2 things that we heard, and these are my learnings. I'm going to do both at the same time. So these are the learnings that came in. I think these 2 really came out tops. One was on privacy and one was on authenticity. So I'll share a little bit more about that. For privacy, it was concerns around if you get a DM, a direct message on Twitter that's one-to-one and personal, but it is a really, really great quote to say like, this team, your team has really helped us with our technology, your team has really helped our community, it's been great and it's been awesome. And you match that to your stakeholders pressing you every day and being like, can you explain to me exactly what you mean by advocacy? Where exactly has the favorability of your program increased? I want to see proof. And I don't want to just see the quote itself. I want to see the person that said it because it has to be someone credible as well. It puts you in an awkward spot of like, do I share this personal piece, even if it's just internal for our team, just to showcase the value that we've brought? And another question that we also faced often was, and I think many of you might have this, it's quite a popular question that I hear quite a lot is, do you have a list of your top community influencers or top community connections? I want names, I want emails, I want Twitter DMs, LinkedIn profiles, everything all there in a sheet. And the more that you collect is going to be able to show the amount of impact that you have. And oh yeah, and also include all the impressions on their Twitter handles so that we can count the total and it will cross 1 million or something like that. So that comes to the point where you decide like, do I share that list? Isn't privacy a big issue? And how far can I go to violate the privacy in order to do well at my job or to be able to prove my impact? So this is where the reporting program comes in handy because when push comes to shove and you're stressed out, you want to have a reporting program that you can fall back on that is able to respect people's privacy. The second thing is around authenticity. So on this piece, the questions that came in from our team out there was really a concern around commoditizing community relationships. And I think DevRel is a really, really interesting industry that is very different from any other industry I've been a part of. It is not sales, it's not PR, it's not marketing, and it's something as a business, but it's also very tied to human relationships. it's gray area, and I'm sure like all of you are friends in some sense, and you've got to know each other really well, and it takes a lot of trust for a DevRel advocate to be able to do a good job, because only with trust will people be more open with their feedback and be more invested to give you better engagement and better feedback for you to improve the technology that then goes back to them. So it's a symbiotic relationship. So that's really important. But once you start reporting on it, and if you say like, oh, I've done like 10 community connections, I've done 10 trips, it becomes a number. And by making these things a number, are we dumbing it down to something that is so much less than the meaningful relationships that we made? So that was a big concern as well. So on to the next step was on acting on feedback. So as program managers, or when you create, whoever it is, if you create something, you have a responsibility to listen, but you also have an accountability to act on the feedback that you receive. So you're going to receive a bunch of feedback, and it's going to be really redundant if you just leave that aside, or you don't demonstrate how that has directly connected into you building your program. So acting on feedback was really important. So the two things I talked about earlier on, I'm going to share how we acted on those. Oh, yeah. So on privacy, on the piece of privacy, we put in a baseline requirement of how privacy is key. So I'll give an example, and you can always choose your own for your own team. Privacy is key meant that we decided as a team to only focus on publicly available information. So only things that people have posted up on their public Twitter sites, if it's not privatized, or they posted it on a public Facebook group and not a closed Facebook group. Regardless, even if the Facebook group has 5,000 members, it does not mean that it's okay to share that content if it's not publicly accessible. So that was a big piece. I think on privacy, another big piece and a good reference point for us was to use the GDPR standards. So GDPR, for those who don't know it, is a European standard for privacy. Of course, I'm in London, so all of you know it. But in Asia, it's not super obvious most of the time. But then again, it pertains to every European citizen as well. So with the world becoming more globalized, you never know if a European citizen is in your community piece. So it's always a safe standard to go by, and you can actually use this as a building foundation for you to build up in additional requirements that you want to add to your privacy filters. So we made sure that those two were in place, and we tried our best to make sure that our reporting process was able to cater to that. For authenticity, how we responded to that and acting on that feedback of how we were afraid to commoditize community connections, we made sure that it was really important to defend DevRel authentic behavior. And when I say that, I actually mean in two ways. The first way is being able to provide the right metrics. So metrics drive behavior. If something is celebrated in your company or your team, it's going to influence the way that people act moving forward. So you want to make sure that you have the right metrics in place. Now, for example, if you have a metric that says the number of people filled in a room at every dev engagement that you do, sounds great at first and might make sense for the first few times, but slowly some people, depending on the team or depending on how stressed people are, might end up making it a checklist and might end up making it just a numbers game. So they'll know how to game the system, not saying that they intentionally do so, but if I can book a room and I can invite more people than developers to come into a room and it becomes 150 rather than just 50, real programmers and real developers that will get value out of this, then that decreases the value of your engagement, and you don't want that to go unseen in your program. So it's really important to have that. So when we say defend authentic DevRel behavior, we meant to have metrics that are qualitative and quantitative at the same time. So it's still a balance, and we're still working that out, but how do we measure the number of engagements that we've done together with the quality of those engagements as well? It could be through storytelling, it could be through a more qualitative progress that you keep a record of over time while maintaining the privacy mentioned above. But those are things to think about. The second way to defend authentic DevRel behavior is that the other concern we had was that if we have a reporting process, it's going to end up pigeonholing a few of our activities into only about 3 types. So you probably say and these are the most common types, right? And I'm not saying that you're wrong, but if you have events, community, and online blog posts, right? Then if we aren't able to go and double click into that and to keep it more open-ended to how people can either find a Venn diagram space in the middle of 2 categories and come out with something really creative and new to engage the developer community according to their different changing needs, then we're always going to be pigeonholed in those 3 things only. And it's just going to be a blog post conversation, an events conversation, and you want to be more than that. And by keeping things open-ended, one great example that came from my team was having a social movement start on Instagram for developers, right? So that actually didn't come under any of those categories, but it was something that, because we kept it open-ended to be able to celebrate things that are new and creative as well, that was actually how we managed to keep the reporting process a bit more open and encourage more authentic DevRel behavior. So basically let people continue doing as they are doing without feeling pigeonholed. And lastly is to optimize. So optimization is around how you know you're going in the right direction, which is great. You know your reporting program is going in the right direction. But it's still pretty rudimentary because you're only meeting the baseline requirements at this point. How do you then take that and optimize it a step further so that you can not only just meet requirements, but also lead the conversation? With a reporting program, I know that's like the dream for like all program managers, right? I can finally lead a conversation and not just have people like throw things at me and be like, fix it. Sorry, very real. Yeah, so the last piece is around how we optimized it a little bit more. So on privacy, we optimized it in the sense of being more community focused. So at step 1, we talked about how privacy is key, so we won't record any non-public information. But what if we also moved away from individuals as a whole? And we just moved our reporting towards focusing on the community only, which is great because in a sense, you're leading the conversation on how it's more important to focus on that community development and growth, regardless of the members that change. And the members will always change, which is very natural and fine. So if a community leader that you're in contact with moves on and somebody else takes on, you're still able to support that person because the community is the thing that matters, not the individual. And this is also great in the sense that you're encouraging a potentially toxic behavior of focusing on a few exclusive individuals, and you're being even more inclusive in the developer environment, which is great. The other piece on authenticity and how we optimized on that is to focus not just on what you did, but the learnings that came out of it. So having a majority of your reporting be about the learnings and the insights that came from it, so that as a team, you're centered more on an objective of improving developer engagement, which then ties directly to what your advocates' intents are actually out there in the field. So you're not actually changing the way that they behave at all, 0. So you're actually directly tying in your reporting mechanism to feed into what they are focused on, which is improving developer engagement. And not just for them, but also how do you share these learnings with the rest of your business to say, hey, as a whole company, this is how we can better engage developers. And it's not just what we did, but it's more important about the learnings and the best practices that came out of it. So that is the 3-step process. And super groundbreaking process over here. Learn, act on feedback, and optimize. When I did the slides, I was thinking like, oh, I came up with this really great model and like it's gonna be a new thing. But then I looked at it at the end of it and I was like, oh, actually that's pretty common sense. But then again, it's really important to remember all these things. And why I named this a not so final product is because it's, as with anything in the developer ecosystem, things are always going to change, things always need to refresh, and this is the only way that we'll keep relevant and to keep improving. So it's not final. There's a lot more research that can be done. There's a lot more input that all of you can give to this discussion, whether at this link on my Twitter or amongst yourselves on how we can improve DevRel reporting as a whole. And I super look forward to what you all have to say as well. So that's the end of my talk. It's gonna feel like this most of the time when you try to build out your programs, trust me. But keep going. Yeah, sooner or later the table will get built. And yeah. All right, thank you.